everybody. Welcome to episode 0 of Sidetracked, where me and Bayu, me, Jennifer, and Bayu, we record our water cooler chats. And oh my God, it's been 2 years, and I finally convinced Bayu, my co-founder slash co-worker slash co-host for this podcast, to finally record this podcast with me. It's literally not just because we're bored because of the whole coronavirus thing. We've had this plan for a while.
Right. I think, 2 years is probably it. I think, and then it got under the rug and then brought it up last year, and then here we are.
I know. So why we made this podcast. So maybe to give you a little context, as I mentioned, we're co-founders, co-workers, and we have a lot of meetings because we work and we're trying to build a mental health organization for Indonesia. But aside from that, we're actually also venturing out to sexual and reproductive health for Indonesia. So we started both at the same time, but then like the mental health organization, we put more effort to the mental health organization, and then now the sexual reproductive health is part of the mental health organization. It's a long story. We'll probably talk about that more in a future podcast where we talk about failures and compromises. But yeah, that's like basically the whole background of it. It's like we have because we're building it from zero, we have so many meetings together. That's like when we started off, we used to have like 8 hours, 6 hours meetings, and to be honest, I am at fault because I feel like I'm the one who always gets sidetracked, hence the name of the podcast.
Okay, that's the first name drop.
I could talk about anything and everything. I would drag it for hours and we would jump from like one thing to the next. And so I was like, why don't we just record it? Because, well, from my perspective, it's like it's an interesting conversation, but aside from that, like in a few years' time, I would love to hear how we arrive to like certain decisions we make and like just the journey of building the organization from zero. And I think like we're kind of approaching it like building a startup. So then, I don't know, it's such a fun thing. Me from like a rather health perspective who doesn't have a background in marketing or like business or anything. Like it's such an interesting, I find it so interesting to navigate that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is what I mean. It's been the whole thing. Yeah, like you said, 2 years. Well, I don't know, Jen. Where was this idea? Was this podcast within that that proposal you had 2 years ago?
To be honest, kaya I didn't like. I was kind of thinking, kaya we were for sure going to have a lot of meetings, and we were going to have long meetings because even me with like a call with a random friend, like I would take it hours. But yeah, we would that was insane. I'm just like having flashbacks to like when we started it, and it's like we were talking about Indonesia in general, and I think mental health, it's quite a big topic. Like it's about well-being, it's about how your relationships, it's about building like a team and stuff like that. So we do talk about a lot of interesting things. What was I going to say? I actually absolutely forgot what I was going to say.
What the mental NSRH?
Yeah. So for sure, mental health and as like sexual reproductive health and mental health, they're both very, very like they're taboo and stigmatized in different ways. Would you say?
Yeah. So instead of like making an app or whatever, Jen here has the bright idea of like tackling both of the most stigmatized health problems in Indonesia. But yeah, here we are.
It's like it's stigmatized in two different ways. So like mental health, ito kaya, like as you mentioned, like people stigmatize people with a mental health condition, like, they can't function in daily life. Tapi kaya with SRH, it's more of like a cultural thing where it's like, we shouldn't talk about it. People shouldn't practice premarital sex and all these things. And so it's like two taboo, stigmatized topics that kaya it's different. Like it's stigmatized differently. And so like I see a lot of like pro and cons in like each project, which is so, again, future podcasts, it's going to be incredibly interesting because we make decisions, like big decisions, where it's like, do we include this topic into this organization? Do we talk about this? Do we discuss this? For those Indonesians listening, we try to take a more neutral approach because we definitely don't want to like promote having sex before marriage because we know culturally that's unacceptable. But aside from that, like with mental health, we don't want to hype up mental health conditions. So we try to take a more neutral approach for sure.
Yeah.
So why a mental health organization?
Just addressing, you know, our mutual friends, maybe. Okay. We'll see if you guys can figure
why
it
a mental health organization, or why a sexual and reproductive health organization for Indonesia? So for starters, we're both Indonesians. As much as like we've already spent quite a few years abroad, we do still believe that Indonesia can do better. That's one of the biggest reasons.
Famous last words. Yep.
We just kind of see that disparity between like our experience here in Australia, because we both go to uni in Australia, and I think like we can definitely bring change back home. More to that in the future, but anyway, like I thought we'd talk about very interesting stuff. To give a little bit of context, especially this is episode 0. So for starters, maybe we should talk about the fact that we don't have a psychology degree.
Yeah, or a public health degree, for that matter.
Exactly. So we're building an organization, and both of us don't have a psychology degree. And I know that's like a recipe for disaster. But I don't know. I find it pretty interesting because our team, like I would say I come from a health background, so I roughly have a bit of background, but nothing like of psychology of like, you know, not psychology degree. Maybe for the SRH, it truly helps. But for the mental health organization, it definitely it's quite hard to navigate, especially when I'm not, like, I feel like I'm not qualified enough to actually run it. And Bayu comes from like a science degree.
Yeah.
Engineering.
I guess my uni calls it science.
Engineering degree. And I guess like, but what I love so much about it, and we will have an episode on this, but it's about like how multidisciplinary our team is. So I probably throw that word around a lot, but I think that's what I love so much about like our organization, is the fact that it's like people from different fields building an organization. And so it's so fun. And like, it's so fun because you are working with so many different types of people, and because of that you hear a lot of perspective from other people, and maybe we could invite a few of them to this podcast.
Yeah, fingers crossed. If you know, you know. Let's just say that.
Yeah, because I have so many interesting conversations just in general with them, and like the way of thinking, and I think it'll be such, for me, I would love to like remember that, record it, and for sure listen to it maybe in the years to come.
Yeah, and hopefully not regret it.
Dude, okay, another thing that I wanted to talk about, I think like, aren't you shy doing this podcast?
At this point, I kind of, it is what it is, you know? It's like, whatever.
I don't know, like, yeah.
I think we'll tackle that later, but it's like, you know, after doing videos and what have you, for the sake of content on our organization, it's come to a point to me where it's like, yeah, whatever, just you know, all right, just tell me what you want me to do, basically.
Yeah, it's a bit funny, the fact that I pushed Bayu to doing this podcast, and I was like, oh, we should record it as like visually as well, because I'm like, I hate, as much as like if you kind of figure out where we come, like which mental health organization we work for, my face is pretty much plastered everywhere, but I hate it. I truly hate posting videos of myself, and like, you know, it sucks because it's like, I will clean my apartment every time I do it. I'm hella shy. Okay,
she says this funny. As she volunteers every time for a new video idea, and then she. Yeah.
I don't volunteer. It's the fact that nobody, like, we're gonna talk about this as well in the future, but it's rare for somebody who wants to volunteer to come in front of the camera, and with this type of thing where it's like we have to raise awareness, like you kind of have to put yourself out there. You kind of have to speak, and so it's like I don't know. I don't have any choice. And like even we talked about this in the next episode 1, where we talked about kayak how I had to host like a Ramadan themed one, and I was like I couldn't find anyone. I'm Christian, by the way, so it's like it was odd for me to host this, but like I couldn't find anyone who would be willing to host it because it's not an easy thing, obviously, to put yourself out there. And I would understand because like I'm really, 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 really shy. I would clean my entire apartment every time I post something. And every time every time my friends kaya comments on like the things that I post. But I don't know. I think my mindset for this podcast is really kaya why would I let other people's judgment or other people's opinions kind of like dictate what I do. And I think it's also kind of like mereka tuh terlalu sibuk to even mind what I'm doing. I don't know, like
that's one way.
Stop, Jen.
That's one way to see it.
Stop your ego. Like nobody cares what you're doing, to be honest. Just put it out there. Nobody cares. Like even if they watch it, they talk about it, nobody's gonna remember it 5 years. In 5 years, who cares? And it's also like that. It's like everyone's busy with their own stuff. It's like just
or so they say, or so we think, but apparently there's some things that people can always find the time, but yeah.
Why are you like passively aggressively like just like kodein orang kayak no, I'm like people.
No, I'm just putting it out there, okay? Because that let's just say that's affected our work as well.
Okay, that's for different. But yeah, for sure. Okay, I think like a lot of people mind their own business anyways. So it's like just do what you got to do, and I truly enjoy the conversations we have, not just with Bayu, but also just like with the other team members of the organization that we work in. And I think it will be fun to record it. And yeah, so that's where, that's the entire context. Obviously, like throughout the like podcast and the episodes, you'll learn more about it and you'll probably be able to identify it. But
who knows one day, I mean, hey, let us know which celebrity would you like us to feature on our thing. So spam the DMs. If you know anyone from Italy or anyone,
anyone who sings, fall on me that you guys can hit us, link it up to them. But yeah, one thing that we want to do is also just end the podcast with like sharing a little article, meme, or like a post.
Okay.
So we'll practice that today. So why we're doing this, I think it's because a lot of our conversation starts from that as well, Nasi.
Yeah, so you can say it's some dumb thing you find on the internet. And
then and we just laugh. Like we would talk about like, I don't want to make it sound so formal, the social implications of it.
Yeah.
We just discuss it, kaya how it's like a funny thing, how relatable it is maybe, atau kaya tweets from like certain celebrities or something that's like funny or something. Kaya,
how to name your child after a spy plane. There you go.
I think it's it's pretty, it's cool, I guess. But anyway, I chose this one specifically for our first episode, and I just sent you dari Instagram.
So it can't be weak. Okay, it's the first one. You're gonna make an impression.
Okay, it's not a meme. It's basically like a diagram. I don't know. Like I'm pretty sure.
Like, isn't this no meme?
It's not a meme.
Yeah, exactly. I thought I was expecting a meme.
It's not a meme. Anyway, I just thought
I guess for this first episode, we'll walk into we share something we found on the internet.
Yes. I mean, like, it could be that in the future juga kan kayak ada tweets and stuff like that.
Sure.
So it's like, but yeah, I chose this one because I thought it was like fitting for our first episode.
Yeah, sure. Go at it. Explain.
Okay. So, it's called Ikigai. I don't know how to pronounce it, to be honest. I'm sorry, any Japanese. But it's basically like a Venn diagram, and I'm just gonna post it up in like the video recording. It's like a Venn diagram with four different things. It's about kaya what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, what you are good at, and kaya like like the Venn diagrams and kaya overlapping kaya passion, mission, vocation, profession, and then like if you can find all of them, if you can like tick all these like spaces in like the Venn diagram, you get what's called ikigai. I just ordered the book for it, so I'm not a professional in this. I literally just like came across an article.
I'm pretty sure. I think I did send you this right at one point last year. Like, one of many quarter life crises that we go through. But yeah, I think so. Right? I think, and then what is ikigai again? I think it was supposed to be the purpose, right? Finding your purpose.
Yeah. So it's finding the purpose. So it's like I thought it was fitting for this first episode because kaya we're talking about like the mental health organization, the SRH organization, and SRH project, and kaya how it's like we're trying to hit all that dot points in that Venn diagram. So then kaya it's kind of like running a startup, but at the same time it's like personal development as well. So it's kind of like. Sure. We're just trying to fill all of that in, especially the like, what can you be paid for? Because like, as much as we want to run a nonprofit, as much as we want to run a social enterprise, as much as we want to bring change, we understand it's not long-term sustainable if we don't have funding. And that's actually quite an interesting episode that we're gonna have about funding and trying to balance out marketing, funding, and
running a company, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, it's like, I just thought it was just a pretty diagram to put in this first episode to just kind of show you and kind of tell you that, come join us in this journey.
Sure, let's make it symbolic. Okay, we gotta pay it. Okay, this is gonna be a productivity podcast. We definitely don't talk, about memes or anything. So yeah, if you're a business person, definitely stay tuned.
Come join us in this journey where we can figure out, like, especially Indonesia, where it's like, culturally, it's definitely beda dengan Western culture, would you say? It's like it has its own
very
conservative culture here and there. And like, even in the next episode, we talk about religion and mental health and like whether we should include it. So there's like those interesting conversations of like our opinions and other people's opinions. But yeah, like, I just thought this was like the perfect one to start off with.
Sure.
It's a pretty interesting diagram. And join us in this journey as we build. Would you say this is a startup? Build this startup together.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It fits the bill, right? The definition. So yeah, fingers crossed. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
To this podcast.
I guess like I'm just trying to make an excuse for like the meetings, the long meetings that we have, and make it a productive thing, record it, so that I have an excuse for it.
Or if we can monetize it, why not? It doesn't hurt to have another income stream. So yeah, fingers. Sponsors.
Okay, calm down.
Okay, maybe you have to censor.
Calm down.
You can't put the brand name, but yeah.
Sponsors just in general.
Definitely.
But first, like, episode 0 and you're already calling out for sponsors. Okay, great. I mean, like, to be honest, like, I'm gonna be like the one that's like balances it out. I'm like, this is for my time capsule. So like, if I can if I get too embarrassed, I can literally just private this entire thing and I can just literally watch it.
Who knows? Maybe we have a third person. Maybe I might be jinxing
honestly
ourselves.
Hopefully in like a month, hopefully somebody joins us. But I mean, if we hope.
We'll see. That's all I can say.
I truly hope. But anyway, I guess that's it for the first, for the episode 0, kind of a little background, kind of
look, I'm going to be impressed if you stuck through us this long. So, I mean, you're going to feel at home. So just stay tuned if you've already stuck this long through the episode.
Dude, I'm so glad that I've like convinced you. It has been 2 years. I finally convinced you to do this podcast with me. But stay tuned. It's, I don't know. It's more for me instead of so it's like,
I'm just here as I usually am with everything. I'm just here.
Exactly.
I'm just chilling.
So next episode, we're going to talk about religion and mental health and also like marketing a mental health organization. I thought that was a pretty interesting conversation. So, yeah, tune in for more sidetrack episodes and water cooler chats. Hopefully, more people can join us. Hopefully, in a month's time. Yeah, I guess see you guys in the next episode.
See you next episode. All right.
Bye.